Right. We're here. We're doing this thing, Ian.
We're doing it? I was still drawing.
Thing on. All right. Well, we're here. We're here. We're doing this thing. It's called Snapshots, and it exists to basically talk with our friends in B2B about, let's see, one topic, a couple hot takes, and some moves that people can make to adopt or completely reject what we are saying that we're feeling about that one topic. But first and foremost, let's tell people who we are in case they care. I'm Lindsay Tjepkema. I'm a story-obsessed, brand-centric strategist, founder of Human Brands Win, and you are?
Yeah, and I mean, Faison, I'm the CEO of Caspian Studios, and I've made in and about 150 different podcasts and video series over the past decade or so, and hosted probably, 1,500 episodes. So I'd like to know a thing or two about content, but I mostly just, it's all trial and error. And that's what we're trying to do today, is just push people to try to do cool stuff that hopefully they weren't considering doing before, and share some of the stuff that we're seeing from like the best B2B brands that we're working with on a day-to-day basis.
That's right. So, okay, what are we talking about today, Ian?
Oh, you mean we're talking about owned versus rented? I was off mic.
Owned. I like it. I like it because we are nothing if not technologically advanced and innovative right here.
So, okay, so owned versus rented is a topic that I think is near and dear to every B2B marketer's heart, especially anyone in content. That this idea, I think, for years and years and years, and popularized a lot by HubSpot, the idea of like inbound, and the idea of like building things on like quote unquote own channels. So own channels being like, the stuff that you control. So this is your newsletter. This is an RSS feed. This is your website. This is like a community that you own and manage, and like that these own channels are, it's far better building on these own channels. This is sort of the prevailing thought for like years and years and years, because what happened was people built like massive Facebook pages, and then Facebook shuttered, the way that traffic gets to them, or and that sort of like rinse and repeat happened over and over and over again. Like we built, like my old team built the biggest publication on Medium, and then they completely changed like their business model. So anytime you're building on rented land, it was fraught with sort of whatever the technology overlords did in order to change that stuff. And so as I said, the prevailing sort of narrative for a long time was like, don't build on rented land, just build your own channels. And so we'll discuss here in a little bit whether that's still true. And then rented land, those are the things that you don't own. Like, so your LinkedIn page, your YouTube channel, your
TikTok.
Yeah,
situation.
TikTok. Any social feed, your Substack, things like that ultimately like you don't control. If they change how they do distribution, if they change how they do monetization, if they change, they can completely shut you out. They can just close your account, all those things. Whereas own channels, like, you can't do that, right? Like you have your email list, you have, it's your RSS feed, it's your website, and you can continue to publish there. And so, that's the overview. What did I miss, Lindsay?
Goodness, there's a lot of gray area. You mentioned Substack. Thank you for that reminder. In case anyone's joining us, that's what we're talking about today, is rent versus owned. I'm sure you do too, like the reason we're talking about it today. The reason we're starting this whole series with this is that I think this is one of the most common conversations that I have when I'm talking to founders or to marketing leaders, and they're like, what do we even do? Where do we even start? What do I need to do about X? Whether it's, it's my LinkedIn account. Should I be focusing on, this thing versus this other thing? And then there's these gray things in the middle. You mentioned Substack, which is kind of like, it's like kind of owned, but it's also very, very subject to the whims of some algorithmic overlords about what happens to your content and how it's distributed or not. So the question therein is what's a brand to do? Where should they be focused? And how should they be approaching rented versus owned? And we're not even going to talk about earned today, but
no, just rented
that's part
versus
of it
owned.
too. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so the inspiration for this post, other than it's sort of our daily life of trying to figure out what we should do, is a couple things. So the great Robert Rose wrote an article about sort of like rented versus owned. Content marketing world is coming up, which I'm speaking at, and it's going to be a huge topic of like, rented versus owned. And so I wrote a piece in my newsletter back in May about this idea of like gardeners, and like that how marketers have to be have to think of themselves like gardeners in this new sort of like rented world. And basically like the adage that sticks with all of this is just like be where your customers are. So the reason why rented channels are so much more valuable now than they ever have been is that the vast majority of audiences are there. So like if you're making video, you got to put it on YouTube. Like that's just where people are, right? So
and I can't like say that again, because I can't believe that people are not, even if you're not doing it well, like put it on there, because that's where people are.
Yeah, and you got to, and that's the thing. Like I think we sort of got into our own heads, and there's this prevailing thought that was like, oh well, my team couldn't possibly be on Twitter or X and Facebook and LinkedIn and XYZ, and I have to pick and choose. And like with AI and the sort of advancements that we have there, maybe you don't have to pick and choose anymore. Maybe you actually need to be really good at a bunch of different channels. And I think that that's like an interesting problem to think about, is like, what if being great on LinkedIn and being great on X and Blue Sky and, wherever else you need to be, like maybe those are all just going to be prerequisites to being a great marketing team in the not too distant future. And I think that just a lot of brands like tried to get in there. They did a really bad job. You saw a lot of accounts that would post, whatever, 3 or 4 times a day. And the only people who are liking the posts are the people on the marketing team, It's like, we've all been there. Like that happens. It still happens. And that's tough. And so back to the thing about like gardeners is like all of these different channels, all these different social channels, these are all walled gardens. So like there's nothing that they control the entire thing. They control the entire experience. You just post on there, but tons of people are there. Tons and tons of people are on LinkedIn. Tons and tons of people are on YouTube. And like you got to be there, right? And so if you're going to be there, you have to think about like how am I posting and what am I posting on these walled gardens? And I think that there's sort of like a systemic shift here in just how people like receive information. And so Mark Andreessen wrote about this a little bit ago, or was on a podcast. And he was like, it's only been in the last 5 years that everybody under the age of 70, and most people over age of 70, shifted from a top-down media approach to social media as their main source of information.
Yes.
So this is like fundamentally a huge change, which is people are getting their information from their Substack, from scrolling on Instagram, from scrolling on LinkedIn, or from the newsletters, or different things that you're sending them. And so if that's the case, if that's where people are providing the information and you want to be one of the sources of that information, then you have to be in the walled gardens, and you have to treat them all differently. And so that is another thing that we've talked a lot about repurposing over the years, and repurposing probably isn't like really the perfect word for it, right? Because something that you do on one channel does not necessarily, mean that it's something that you should do on another channel. But if the message is really good, like you absolutely should be doing that. And the way that I sort of have been thinking about this is that like if you're to make a podcast that's 45 minutes, can you cut that down into a super fast, tight 60-second cut of the entire episode for TikTok or for Instagram or LinkedIn? And like those are the type of things that I think optimizing for the actual channel, for the walled garden that you're trying to build stuff in, is really important.
Yeah, and the thing that you said that I think is the key to all of this is you have to go where your audience is. You have to know who they are. You have to know how they're using those different platforms, and you have to learn over time. Like, you're not going to magically know as you get started, but you've got to use each place accordingly based on who you're trying to reach, what information they're trying to collect there. And then I had a piece of paper too, Ian. So mine is much smaller, but mine says rent to own. So
Ooh,
the way
I like that.
the way that I approach when people ask me about, like, hey, what the heck do I do? Do I rent? Do I own? Do I lease? It's consider all of these different platforms that help distribute your content to people and places that you would not be able to without them. So you don't have them in your email list, and they're able to spread your message further, to amplify it. Use those situations, use LinkedIn, use social media, use Substack to reach more people, but know what you're trying to get them to do. Like, think with the end in mind to say, okay, I'm going to build my network on LinkedIn. I'm going to build my network through Substack and build my audience there, but I'm constantly going to be pointing people to my owned real estate and say, hey, come here, subscribe to my newsletter, come here, subscribe to my show, so that you, come what may, no matter what algorithmic shifts or earthquakes might happen, you do still have that space that you own. So I always like to think about it as like a rent to own.
I like that
scenario.
I think that everyone who is creating content has to think about distribution first. You have to think about how important distribution is, and we really fight and claw and try to figure out ways to get distribution. It's the hardest part after making something great that stands out, and that's what these places are, is they have inherent distribution. And so the thing is, if you post something on your blog, it has zero chance of going viral. It can't go viral. Like, that's not, like, it could get shared on a social channel that could go viral, but it could not go viral. If you post on your podcast, for example, like, it can't go viral. There's no mechanism in which it could go viral. It could get, something else could create the virality, but it's not going to go viral on its own. And the thing that these walled gardens do so well is they go viral. So they are going to feed information via the algorithms to you as soon as it starts to pick up. And so, not that your goal is to go viral, but the chance that your content could reach more people, that is the point of the rented channels. Like, all of the walled gardens, the reason why they are so successful, in part from controlling the entire customer experience, is that they control the algorithm and how it's surfacing more information to the audiences. So if you create something good and great and grand and wonderful that your audience really digs, it's going to send that to a bunch of other people. And that's really, really expensive to do that. Like, if you're to try to do that on your own with paid or other ways. And so if you're only posting onto channels that you own, chances are, guaranteed, of course they can't go viral because you own them, right? Like, it's not a network of people, which has a network effect. And this, like, might seem like a small thing, but it's not. Like, so if you were to take, like, a pie chart and say, how much content are you posting on owned channels versus rented channels? And let's say it's like, I don't know, whatever, 2/3 on your own channels. That means 2/3 of your content can never go viral, like, ever. Right. So, like, that's just not perhaps the way that you would want it to be. The other piece there is that, like, what is the method of consumption that people are using most often in your audience? And are you matching that? You know, like, and that's, I think, another key piece here, is that when people are using these owned channels, when they're publishing like tons and tons and tons of content to their blog in order to get surfaced, you know, via SEO or whatever. And that obviously is changing with AI and is a topic for another day. But like that, the reason why we were doing that is for distribution, is because Google would surface it to people. Like, that's why we were doing it, for distribution. So the same exact mindset is to say, well, if the whole reason why we're doing that is to get distribution, it wasn't just to create it, right? It was to get distribution. That's why we were doing it. We should have the same rigor to the way that we publish on these other channels. And it's just not really happening. Like if you just look at like the way in which people shift their publishing into these walled gardens, like they're not optimizing at all. They're like, if you just took the average, so on average, people spend 5 hours a day watching video. The average person in America, speaking American audience, 5 hours watching video. Like, so what percentage of video content are you making for your audience? Considering they're consuming 5 hours a day of video of different kinds. Like, there's no way that your percentage, that the average B2B company, that the percentage of video that they create is equivalent to how much video we consume. They're not doing it. Like you can just go poll any of it, and you know that, right? So inherently, like there's just this massive gap in what we should be creating and what we are creating. And it's weird because you're handing it over to your tech overlords and saying like, hey, don't kill my account someday. But that's the risk, right?
Yeah.
Like that's I mean, that is the business we're in.
And half the content on LinkedIn right now is about how frustrated people are about the fact that their posts aren't doing what they used to do. So,
yeah,
okay.
Do you want to go to our final segment?
Our final segment, yes, because we have segments. Look at you. Yes, we have making moves, because that's what.
By the way, look at this disaster of an S and this disaster of a G.
I think it's artistic, Ian. I think that you need to give yourself more credit. Be kinder to yourself.
Making moves.
Today. Making moves. Okay, so we've pontificated, we've shared our opinions. What can and should people do that just really want to know if they should be renting or owning their audience and their media and all?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is start thinking about using individuals rather than brand accounts. This is like by far and away the biggest thing that you can do to change your fortunes on the rented channels is like using individuals to publish is way, 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 way more productive. So it's like start thinking of the different people in your organization or people that you can partner with to create that stuff. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you need to have mechanisms where you can easily capture and create really good content that can be shared on these channels. And like most everyone just needs to be better at video. So like you could also say you need to be better at written, but I would just bet that you probably just need to be better at video. And with AI now, like video is just a better opportunity for the vast majority of brands, right? Yeah. You can always have a written component to it. Too. What's up?
Makes you a whole lot more human too.
Yeah, for sure.
No dashes here.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the second thing is like focus on a video first strategy in which you start with how are we going to consistently and repeatedly build a video franchise. The third thing is to start thinking about franchise first. So like when you're creating any type of like content series, think of it like a series that you're going to do like episodes of a series. And for that series, there's going to be different things. So like when we wanted to create Snapshots, it's like, this is a, LinkedIn live series that we're going to do, every week. And because it's serialized, because it's creator first, because it's using the individuals first, and because it's designed for the specific rented channels, all of those things, make it much harder to replicate for your competitors because they're probably not doing it. And we've talked to tons and tons and tons of brands who are just too scared to do this stuff at the end of the day. So like,
indeed,
there is no traffic on the extra mile. And if you go the extra mile for these type of shows and show up consistently with great content that's original, you're going to win over time. In the same way that you used to win with publishing great SEO, this is how you win right now, right this second in 2025. That's how you win.
That's how you win. And I'm just going to go back to this. Just think with the end in mind. Don't just publish for the sake of publishing and for growth and growth and growth and more. It's like, for what? Like, to do what?
Yeah, and I think for the rent to own piece, my final thoughts there is just like, people are going to consume however they want, right? Like, it might be easiest for them to just like read your newsletter. It might be easiest for them to watch YouTube videos. It might be easiest for them, or not even easiest, it's their preference. And you just don't know what their preference is. And it might be reading, or it might be watching. It might be just, doom scrolling on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. But I think if you treat each of the different channels like a garden and think like a gardener, and it's like each one is like a little community garden. So like anyone can plant plants, but each garden has its own different ecosystem with weather and sun and soil. And your job is to like know the climate for that thing, and create little content plants that fit that thing, right? So if it's a newsletter, it's a certain form or format. If it's short form video content, it's a certain original form or format that you like. If it's more long form content, if it's more of a masterclass or something that you would binge, whatever that thing is, but make it optimized towards the different gardens that you're trying to plant that stuff in. Make it come from a human being and not just from your brand. And put a little bit of your human touch in there, and don't make it feel so inauthentic.
Agreed. Okay, well, and shocker, we went over on time. So we should probably wrap it up. What do you think?
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. If you have any questions, just Ian at Caspian Studios, hit us up.
Yep. And we'll see you right here next week, same time, 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 Pacific. Reach out if you just simply can't bear to wait that long. We'll be around. So thanks for joining us on this first episode of Snapshots.
Thanks, y'all. Later.